Looking for an affordable Scotch? You've got the Glenlivet 12 or the Founder's Reserve. Similar price, same ABV, same cask maturation, so does the age statement make a difference? Hey guys, I'm Nath Martyn, the Whiskey Scribe. I'm a whiskey enthusiast and I love all things whiskey. But taste is subjective and there's a lot of different whiskies out there. So whether you consider yourself a connoisseur or you're just looking to understand more about whiskey, let's explore it all together. If you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. I put up regular whiskey review videos. You can also follow me over on Instagram. Most of us know of the Glenlivet, a Speyside distillery, in fact, one of the oldest licensed distilleries in Scotland. And the 12-year-old has long been the entry level on their core range. But back in 2015, facing some pressure on their aged stock, they pulled the 12-year-old from some markets and replaced it with the Founder's Reserve. So here in Australia, this one disappeared and they just tossed us this non-age statement whiskey in the hopes that we would be happy with it. Now, I love the Founder's Reserve and it has been quite popular, but there was still so much interest in the 12-year-old that they had to bring it back in Australia. So we've had both of these on the market now for many years, and they both retail around about the same price. They sort of range from $70 to $80 depending on which store you go to, and with discounts, they'll often also drop down depending on, what's more popular at the time. So they're the same price point, and they're very similar whiskies. Now, I like them both. I almost always have at least one of them on my shelf, but I've never actually really compared the two of them. It's usually one or the other. So what I'm going to do is try both of these side by side and actually see which one is my preference. Now, the Founder's Reserve is named after the distillery founder, George Smith, hence the name Founder's Reserve. He actually has a really interesting backstory, so one day I'd love to do a deep dive into that one. But it's matured in traditional oak, which typically means European oak, and first fill American oak, which means ex-bourbon cask. So I don't know why they can't just say that. It's bottled at 40%, it is chill filtered, and it likely has had some color added for batch consistency. Now, as I said, this is a non-age statement, but the rumors are that it's made from a combination of 8 to 12-year-old stock. Now, if we look at the 12-year-old, as I said, this has long been the entry level in their core range. We already know the age statement, it's 12 years. It's also matured in traditional European oak and American oak. Now, Glenlivet's description here just says American oak, it doesn't say first fill, so this is probably a combination of first and second fill ex-bourbon barrels. It's also 40%, chill filtered, and may have color added. Realistically, the only difference on the specs between these two is an age statement on this one and the fact that this one definitely has only used first fill American oak. So I'm just going to have to test this out the old-fashioned way. So let's go in order of age, and we'll start with the Founder's Reserve. In terms of flavor, the Founder's Reserve is meant to be sweet, smooth, and creamy with fruity, vibrant character. So if I swirl this around, I'm actually getting some kind of slow running legs. Not super slow, but a lot better than what you would expect from like a blended whiskey. I'm not gonna, look, you can look at the color if you want. I'm not gonna pay too much attention to that because they do add color for batch consistency. It's pretty normal when you're doing large batches of an entry-level range, but it's just not worth looking at. But in terms of the nose, on the nose on this one, I actually get quite a bit of oak. So it does make sense that this one has only used virgin European oak and first fill American oak. I also get some sweetness. It leans more towards honey than probably stewed apple. It's a little bit floral, but there's almost, for the nose, there's almost even kind of like a little bit of a creamy note to it. But on the palate, Slange. I really love it when a Scottish whiskey still lets a little bit of that biscuity, malty sort of flavor come through, which you've definitely got here. The sweetness, much like the nose, it borders between stewed apple and honey. That apple sort of note is very characteristic of Glenlivet whiskey. There's a faint little bit of spiciness coming from the oak, but in terms of the finish, the length of the finish isn't too bad for a non-age statement 40% ABV whiskey. Now it's shorter than, a lot of other scotches, but the oak and that little bit of honey sweetness sticks around for a little bit. You still got that floral bit that disappears. It's not this long, it's already gone from my palate at this point, and I'd say the other thing that comes across in the oakiness, just generally on the palate, is it's almost like a little bit of a creamy texture, which is again also surprising for something that is chill filtered. But next, if we move on to the 12-year-old, but the 12 is meant to be fruity, smooth and balanced, intertwining tropical fruit and sweet vanilla flavors, which to me doesn't sound that different to the explanation of the Founder's Reserve. And that's the description from the Glenlivet website. The only thing that really stands out as a little bit different in that description is harmony, balance, which is what the Scottish will always tell you comes from age. Again, I'm not going to look at the colour too much. Similar legs, it's a similar ABV, it's chill filtered. On the nose, given that this has a 12-year age statement and the Founder's Reserve doesn't have an age statement, this is surprisingly light on the nose. I definitely got a little bit more body on the nose on the Founder's Reserve. This is quite light. It's more leaning on the fruity floral side of things. That apple note is coming across more as actually freshly cut apple rather than poached apple or stewed apple. Yeah, light, fruity and floral. But test it on the palate, slange. The mouthfeel on this, in comparison to the Founder's Reserve, is almost kind of watery. Like the Founder's Reserve, I said, came across as a little bit creamy in texture. This one came across, yeah, kind of like, in terms of just the texture on the mouth, a little bit watered down. It is still floral on the palate. You're getting those fruit notes, almost like a little bit of pineapple and apple in there. The sweetness, interestingly enough, is, while the Founder's is more like a bit of a honey sweetness entwined with the oak, the sweetness on this one is more like a candy or caramel sort of sweetness. Not extremely sweet, but just that's the kind of flavor note that you're getting from it. Now that it's been in the glass for a little bit, I'm starting to get a little bit of citrus on the nose. And the finish is very light and very short. Huh. Before I say anything, let me just go back and taste the other one. Well, shit. I was anticipating that this would actually be really, really close because on their own, I like each of these as they are. If I'm just going to open up the Glenlivet 12, pour a dram and have a sip, I'll enjoy it. Same with the Founder's Reserve. Side by side, the Founder's Reserve for me is actually the clear winner. It has a little bit more body, a little bit more character. It has a little bit more creaminess and mouthfeel on the palate. It just has a little bit more of everything. It must be, wow, it must just be the fact that they're only using first fill American oak instead of second fill. But I really did not expect that. Now, don't get me wrong. These are both still nice whiskies, especially for the price point. I mean, $70 to $80 in Australia to get an aged Scottish whiskey. Granted, the Founder's Reserve does not have an age statement, but still, we know it's not 5 years old. These are both nice whiskies, but if you're looking for something that's got a little bit more body at that price point, go with the Founder's Reserve. Don't fall into the shtick of, an age statement is the most important thing about Scottish whiskey. If you really like those light, delicate sort of flavors of Glenlivet, those fruity sort of notes, the fresh fruit notes, the Glenlivet 12 lets those ones come through. But for me, I actually think I might stop buying the Glenlivet 12 and start just getting the Founder's Reserve. I really didn't expect that outcome. And I mentioned that at least one of these is always on my shelf. And there's a reason for that. When I first When I first moved out of home, if I was catching up with my father, who was a pensioner, and I was working hospitality or I was a poor uni student, neither of us really had a lot of money, so we'd be purchasing whatever whiskey was on special at the time. But we both liked Scottish whiskey. So it would always be either the Glenlivet 12 or the Founder's Reserve. And it would just depend on which one was on special at the time. And so since my father's passed away, I make sure I always keep one of these on the shelf, because that's the whiskey that I'll turn to on Father's Day or on his birthday, or it's just something where I'm trying to remember him and pour a dram. But yeah, I actually think the Founder's Reserve is going to be the way I'm going to go from now on. That's... wow. Genuinely did not expect the difference to be that stark for me. So yeah, I suppose the takeaway from this video should actually be, if you've got similar whiskies that you really, really like and you're always coming back to, give them the face off. Like, give them, have them side by side, see which one you actually prefer. You might actually find that they're close, but one clearly stands out, and you can just stop getting one whiskey and just start getting the other. The Founder's Reserve is kind of the way to go for me. I kind of see where Glenlivet was coming from on that. Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. But I guess regardless of the cost or age statement, clearly, I encourage you to explore other drams, but always enjoy what's in your glass and slange. No, wrong one. Nope. Founders.